Hello and welcome to the Merle and Locke podcast. I'm Merle.
And I feel sick. I'm Locke.
Okay. Set sail and low expectations for everything nerd, accompanied by a healthy, albeit shameful, helping to pointless banter, like folks say, questionably acquired knowledge.
And more.
And more. What I want to get into today, it's not anything deep, okay? I just want to talk about most people's unwillingness to let things go. Not like emotionally or anything like that.
I hold on to all grudges.
Right.
No, a little bit of that Irish in me. I'll just hold it on. Let it fester.
So I'm talking about like physical things. A lot of people have gotten on to me in the past for this, and I don't know if it's something that's just been ingrained in me at a young age because of my father and that whole like mentality for men, just be like, oh, if you could still utilize it, it doesn't need thrown away. Like my clothing, for one. I've had the same 6 or 7 t-shirts in my closet for the last 7 or 8 years. And they're all tattered. They got holes in them and stuff like that. But they cover my nipples and my belly button. And that's enough for me. Yeah. Like I have big old armpit holes.
No, see what you do is, now this is what I was raised to believe on this. So if you have holes, right, in your shirts, where's the hole at? Is it at the armpit? Make it a sleeveless shirt now. There you go.
Okay.
That there now saves you some time and money.
I get that. Like if you were to live in a place that sees sunlight, which I do not, I could see that little transition being, okay. Right? But I don't get much sunshine where I live. So sleeves are preferable because it's always chilly.
You need some artificial sunlight. Just get one of those heaters for your house that mock some sunlight.
One of those UV lights.
That's
I
right.
do need. Yeah, I do need that for sure.
Put it in your living room.
Right. I get crap from my mom whenever I go visit my parents during the summer because my socks are in tatters as well until the point where like my entire heel is sticking out of my socks. And so every year for my birthday, she buys me a pack of socks, and that's been tradition for 10 plus years, or she buys me a pack of socks every year. I'll get a lot of life out of things. I've developed new skills as well as a result of, holding on to things for far too long. My sweaters, I repair my sweaters at least. Not so much the t-shirts because, that's a more delicate material, but like things like sweaters where it's a thick material, I'll actually sew them together. I have a sewing machine and I'll patch those up. And keep those going for as long as possible. It's getting to the point where my daughter even gives me crap all the time about holding on to things for so long. And she's like, just buy a new one, whatever it is. And I'm like, why? This is perfectly usable. I could still use it. There's no need to go out, spend money and get a new one.
You know how much these things cost? It's like $60 for a new sweatshirt. That is outrageous.
Exactly. It is outrageous. Now, I bring this up because I've been dealing with, some issues with my car as of late. I've gotten a lot of life out of my car. I've had my car now for almost 15 years. I upkeep maintenance. I'm really good with it. I treat it well. I mostly just putz around with it. But it's getting to the point where a lot of things are starting to fail all at the same time. Just recently, I've had to get some new suspension pieces, control arms. I had a few cylinders go out. I've had to replace all the gaskets pretty much have failed by this point. This weekend, I'm going to do a new timing chain because, a couple weekends ago, I replaced a head gasket and a bunch of other gaskets along the way, plus a whole bunch of other pieces like timing chain tensioners and things like that. Just things that while I was trying to get to the piece that I was trying to fix, things would crumble along the way. And I'm like, shit. So I have to keep replacing things as I'm going deeper. After I got everything together, I'm starting to have some issues with the timing chain. And now I'm like, oh, I think it's, it's that time that I need to replace it.
It's funny that you had to replace the timing chain in order to realize that it's that time.
Yeah, it's that time.
Well,
I get crap from my daughter all the time saying like, "Oh, all the stuff that you're doing, you should just buy a new car." I get that. Like the amount of money I'm spending right now is pretty much more than a car payment every month, on a new car. But at the same time, it's not going to be that many times I have to pay this amount of money for parts, right? I do the service myself. All I have to do is buy the parts. I fix it up. And now I know exactly what is new and what still needs done to the car. So I have a good knowledge of my car in general. And I think that knowledge is pretty invaluable. And I was riding with a buddy, and he has a new, I think it's a Kia or something that's an electric car or a hybrid or something. No, it's fully electric. I was working on my car with him, and I was telling him I would be so scared to get one of these new electric cars, because I bet you if you dig into it and get down underneath into the subframe and what have you, like it's going to look like some kind of airliner in there, with all the like the bundles of cables and whatnot going through. Your only option would be to go in and get it fixed. I mean, you have to be so dependent on not necessarily mechanics, but specialized mechanics that work with that type of vehicle. That sounds expensive. So my car, it's old enough that the parts are familiar. I'm still able to get some of the parts. I did have a little hiccup when I got my car together the first time, and I had to remove the fuel rail on it to get to some extra bits, and I just moved it off to the side. I didn't fully disconnect it. I just unfastened it, moved it off to the side, took it off the injectors. Yeah, I depressurized it and everything. I did everything right. I just moved it off to the side. And then when I got the car back together again and put the fuel rod in place, I primed the engine, it's just so it pressurizes, and I let it go for a little bit. And then it just starts dumping fuel all over my engine bay. And I'm like, oh no. so I turned it off. And at that point, I was like, okay, this fuel rail, it's kind of inaccessible for the most part. I mean, because it has like this weird crimping. And so I was sure it was like some O-rings that had gone out. But rather than like kind of delve into it and try to take it apart and see if I could piece a new one back together, I decided to go online and I'd call the shops that were close by, be like, hey, do you carry this part? And all the shops that I called, they're like, yeah, that part is out of production.
Yeah, they're like, Jesus, how old is this thing? Like,
it's not even that old. It's an 04.
It's like when you go into like a phone store and you're just like, here's the phone that I had, and they're like, how long have you been holding on to this thing? This is a dinosaur. You know how far behind you are? And I'm like, yeah, you know what? I do understand. I'm not some fancy pants like you. It was working just fine. Until you make certain parts so damn cheap that now my port's bad and I can't charge my phone anymore. I've been there. That was a terrible time. And of course I was like, I need to get a new phone, because once it dies, that's it. It's dead. I think what holds us back is like the bigger the price tag is, the more we're willing to keep just band-aiding it until we can afford to get a new one. But at that point, you're like, can I really afford to get a new one?
I'm wondering, if that's the argument, like, is this solely because we've had to do it out of necessity? If we had that extra spending money, do you think we would be different? Our feelings would be different about this matter? Would we continuously just get newer things because we had the extra money to spare?
I'd still think, my personal opinion, that if I had the money to do so, I'd be like, is it truly a necessity? Is there only one thing wrong with this? Like, say it was a phone. Be like, are you still able to use it? Yes. Okay, answer is no, you're not getting a new phone.
Right. I'd like to believe that because I've developed so many skills over time just by fixing things and keeping things going, and I find that knowledge invaluable. Like being able to do all that. Like I remember I have this 50-inch plasma screen TV. Just all of a sudden stopped working at one point, and I've had this thing for over 15 years now, I think. When it went out, I held on to it because I was like, I'm gonna try fixing that one day. And like maybe a year and a half went by before I finally settled down and said, you know what, I'm gonna fix this thing, get it working. And it didn't even take me that long. It took me maybe an afternoon to diagnose parts of the circuit board had gone out, what nodes to replace. And then I just ordered those nodes for probably less than $5 for like little packs of those nodes. And I just plugged them back in, soldered them back up, and the TV was working again. And now I still have that plasma screen TV sitting in my living room. And I've had that thing for forever now. I have a keyboard right now that I've had for God knows how long, and the amount of times I've had to repair it. It has like LED lights that have gone out because, I've got like replacement parts for it, but I never replaced the LED lights because I was like, meh, who cares about the flashy lights? It's fine. It's got a cool pattern going on now. Like most of the keys that I use the most, those are the ones that don't have an LED light anymore. And I know my phone, like every time, I swear, like I don't know how they do this. I don't know how phone companies do this, but I swear every time you get your phone fully paid off, it starts breaking down immediately after you pay it off. This has happened to me three different occasions now, 3 different phones. And this phone that I have currently, the little iris or like the focus lens, I don't know the inner workings of a camera, but the camera on my phone, it gets stuck. The focus gets stuck. So I have to slap it against my hand a bunch of times and then the focus starts working again and I can take a picture. So my daughter gives me crap every time because I'm like, oh, let me snap a picture of this or something, whatever she's doing. And then I'll sit there for a minute slapping the thing against my hand until it starts working. She's like, Dad, it's embarrassing. Stop.
It reminds me because we were also the generation that grew up with like NES and SNES. So they're like, don't blow in your games, and here we are just going, we're blowing in it, we're kind of smacking it a little bit, and then we're
you have to.
If you pop the game out and then stick it back in, pop it back out and stick it back in, it'll work just fine. And then all of a sudden, it would come up.
Yeah, it would always start work. It always worked. Yeah, I remember my brother had a PS1 that my dad pulled out of a dumpster at our church. Somebody threw the PS1 in there. He took it out, gave it to my brother. My brother just started messing with it. Like, he was so proud. Like, it started working after him messing with it for a while. He was so chuffed with himself, thinking he was so smart. All he did was, like, bang on it a bunch of times and, fiddle with things, and then it started working. Yeah, I was like, how did you do that? So every time we would play a game, I remember we started playing like Final Fantasy games and stuff on it. And every time we tried to get it, like sometimes it would like, jam up or freeze up, or so like the little reader would stop sliding back and forth. And so we'd just have to knock it around a whole bunch and then it would start working again. So we've grown up in my personal life. I've grown up in a time where we just make it work. We never have anything brand new. We just get these broken things, or we have broken things, and we just get them to work.
If you beat it up, it'll work.
Yeah, if you knock it around enough times, it'll start working for you. I feel like it speaks to a person's character, their unwillingness to let things go, no matter how broken or busted they are. They're still willing to take the time to make it work. It's something that I, have tried to pass on to my daughter. Of course, kids have this innate ability to rebel against everything that you recommend or say.
No, they don't.
She's on board with because her mom does the same thing, or she used to do the same thing to me, where she'd just be like, just let it go. and get a new one, whatever it is. And I'm just like, no, I can do this.
Speaking of that, like I recently ended up going out and just finally buying a new headset for the Xbox and a new controller for the Xbox, because I kept having moments where it would just randomly, like, my character would quick shift and do something, and I'm like, come on, that's not at all what I was doing. So it's like, once I get fed up enough with it, I'm like, that's it, I need a new one. The headset that I had, I was in a party with a couple of our friends, and they're like, you sound like you're underwater. They're trying to talk to me, and they're like, something's wrong with your mic. And I was just like, I'm done talking to you guys, because you clearly can't even hear me. So I went out, I bought a new headset. I was like, I'm sick of this.
I'd love to hear comments on this. Viewers wanting to either get rid of old broken things or trying to fix it, and like some personal experiences. This is just our experience with these things. It seems as though, as far as myself and Locke are concerned, we've done it mostly out of necessity because, we don't come from money or anything, and we've never had very high paying jobs or anything like that. We just have to make things work. Once again, this doesn't make anyone better than anyone else. So let's not get it twisted here. It's just different experiences, different strokes for different folks.
That's right.
Thank you for joining us on the Merle and Locke podcast. If you enjoyed this banter, please consider becoming a patron by going to patreon.com/Merle and Locke, or simply follow the link in the description. Thank you.